Do you like movies? Do you like hearing random people talk about movies? Well, then you come to the right place. This is Movie Emporium, a podcast where we talk to you about our thoughts of the world of movies and give you our opinions on the past, present, and future of the film industry itself. Today here with me is Adam. How you doing, Adam?
I'm doing okay. How about yourself?
Good. I figured I'd change it up today. How was your last couple of weeks? Because we haven't talked for a while.
Horrible, because I am on a diet and I'm limiting myself to 1,500 calories or less, so I'm dying inside.
You're dying inside, so you're basically eating like one banana and a couple peanuts.
I don't fall for no banana in the tailpipe.
Oh man! And what about you, Rob? How you doing?
Oh, I'm good. I'm just eating a cheeseburger. Oh.
Eating a cheeseburger and winning more awards, right?
Oh yeah. I'm
So,
eating I printed the award out and I baked it into the cheeseburger.
You're like showing it off to everybody. You're like, look at this. So, okay. So, in the past, the last 3 or 4 episodes that we have done, we did a news segment and a review segment. I kind of wanted to change things up from here on out. I did start a YouTube page to put up reviews. We could also do reviews in the future of movies, like if I don't want to talk about, like for instance, Teen Titans Go to the Movies. Basically, what we're gonna do from here on out is we're gonna take a month each time and record about 3 or 4 episodes, post them week by week. That way, you guys have some stuff to talk about. But we'll, like I said, we'll take a topic and then we'll talk about it. As always, if you like what you hear, remember to rate, subscribe, comment, go to our YouTube page, go to our Twitter page, all that good stuff. So the first topic I think we're going to talk about, also it's going to be about 30 minutes each, so look out for that. But the first topic I think is really relevant. It happened last week during Comic-Con. James Gunn, who is known for directing the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, he's also known for directing Slither and Super. Yeah, thank you, Super. Some crazy ass movies. He's also Trauma and that good stuff.
He wrote the Scooby-Doo movies.
Yeah, those are movies we don't talk about. He also did Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah.
The remake. Wrote it, but so
Nancy, PG porn.
Yes. What was the one that he did with the Trauma film, the like really famous one?
Romeo and Juliet.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I think he wrote that as one as well. So
yeah, that was his first screenplay.
Yeah. So basically, what happened was he had wrote some really disgusting, nasty tweets back in like 2009 to 2010. He apologized for it, made mistakes, as we all do on Twitter, and at least most people try not to do, but it happens. I won't get into what they are because they're actually really messed up and really disturbing tweets. But he apologized for them. He moves on with his career, gets hired to do the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. And just recently, he was the victim, not the victim, but he was called out by, I don't know if it's like a politician or...
He's like an alt-right blogger or alt-right journalist.
Right. Basically... This guy posted all of James Gunn's tweets of 2009 and 2010, and Disney, and their claim of not knowing what was going on, upped and fired him off of Guardians Volume 3, essentially taking him off the project. So I want to talk to you guys about this. How do you guys feel, one, about Alan Horn, who's the one that released a statement basically saying, in light of all this evidence, we felt it was the right thing to let him go. Whoever wants to go with that.
I didn't see that statement, but I mean, I have been reading up on everything about it. And I mean, so on one hand, it's kind of understandable that a company would want to distance themselves from somebody. Like, take the Roseanne situation. She goes out and she says something like, today, I mean this or whenever it was, like say this was when Roseanne she went out and said her thing, and there was a reaction to that. It wasn't something that happened in the past, but so you can kind of understand where a studio would want to say, all right, we don't want anything to do with this because this is the kind of person they are right now.
Right.
James Gunn, this was stuff that happened well before he ever was hired by Disney, and like you said, he apologized for it in the past, so he kind of owned up to it. But another thing is, like, So I followed a lot of James Gunn's career because he's one of my favorite modern working directors and writers, and reading the Guardian scripts has helped a lot in learning formatting techniques and things like that. So I've always been a big fan of his career. So I followed it. I've gone back and watched a lot of his older stuff, and I watched his Facebook stream live videos. And the first thing that came to mind in this was it was either an interview or a Facebook live stream where somebody was asking him about what got him hired with Disney, and if it was Super or if it was Scooby-Doo or something like that. And he commented that it was actually Humanzy that is what got him kind of hired, because the people that were in the room enjoyed it so much.
Is it because of the style of the movie, or?
No, it was a very very low budget. It's a very vulgar film about just this guy who sends his semen off to Russia, and this human chimpanzee clone comes back, and they just basically take it to a house party and abuse it. And there's the Humanzy has sex with some girl there, and I can't remember if somebody else kills her or he kills her, but it's there's death and blood and all kinds of stuff, and it's definitely not a Disney family friendly thing, and it kind of goes along the lines of that type of humor that he showed in those tweets that he gave out, so it's kind of he was this filmmaker at that time coming from Trauma. Anybody who knows Trauma knows that it's all about how you can be shocking and how you can be as edgy as possible. And I think in the beginning of his career, that's kind of who he was. And even his brother tweeted out a bunch of stuff that he was always wanting to be edgy and shocking. And as he grew and as he got the job to direct Guardians, he kind of grew along with figuring out who he was, and that he didn't need to have that kind of in the past, is what Sean Gunn was saying. And so when you kind of look at Guardians in that sense of where he may have grown from who he kind of says he was in the past and what you see in these tweets to how he is now, where he was a big proponent of the Me Too movement and a lot of left liberal ideas and things like that. And so he was on that side of things amongst their kind of championing those ideas and stuff. And so it's kind of funny in a sense that everybody turned on him so quickly because he was part of that whole kind of Hollywood left type.
Right. Yeah, it's just really weird too, because the minute I read that, I'm like, what the hell am I reading? And then I was really pissed off by it, because it just seems like every time we turn around, there's somebody in the media is being accused of something. So I'm like, oh God, here goes with James Gunn. But then you start reading about it. It's this happened almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
People change in 10 years. You can't tell me that James Gunn is that stupid. I mean, he was stupid at the time, but that he's that stupid now that he's just gonna not admit to what he did, or he would have deleted everything, which he didn't. He knows what he did, and what he did was wrong. So,
well, he came out and apologized before about this, and I guarantee you Disney knew about this, because they go and they're gonna vet every person who works for that company, directly or indirectly. So I'm pretty sure they knew about this, and they're just okay, they probably brought it up with them. Hey, what's going on? But where do we draw the line? In your past mix, everyone's going to make a mistake while growing up. So are we going to penalize a kid that said something on Twitter when he was 12 years old and now he's in his 30s or 40s? Is he going to lose his job? Is family going to leave him over a stupid tweet when he was a teenager? Where do you draw the line on that? Especially with nowadays, everything you put on the internet's there forever. Yeah. Or what about if somebody makes a comment about you? It's gonna be there forever.
Right.
And there's double standards. So we're looking at what's going on in TV and movies. Someone says something, they're getting fired almost immediately. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. There's no defense. It's you're gone. But then we have the music industry, politicians, where essentially the music industry, just look at what they're tweeting and saying, and how vile or, disgusting that is. And it's I'm going to go out and buy their album. I think this is amazing.
Yeah, I was going to...
Oh, look, they're tweeting it. But then, a politician says something, and it's, oh, well, he really meant this. Oh, he didn't mean to send a picture of that. It was an accident.
Mm-hmm.
But then, somebody who's on TV or media or movies says something, and oh, nope, gotta go. We're not spending money on that anymore. It's kind of like that double standard. It doesn't matter if you're left or right,
Right.
center. It doesn't matter your political opinions, because this is going to affect everybody one way or the other. But, if you apologize, and it's out there that you've apologized about this, and you're still hired, is that right for someone to come back later and be like, yeah, we know about it, but, this guy over here who's absolutely disgusting is bringing it to our attention. So let's just, we don't want to deal with this, so you're fired. I mean, that's not right.
Yeah, and it sets a weird precedent too, because if what Disney says is that, okay, if you do something terrible in your past, then you don't deserve to be working today. But if you take that and look at the Disney company itself, I mean, when they first started, think about the Song of the South and all the old, like, super racist stereotypes that they used to put into the cartoons. Yeah. And obviously they've moved beyond that and grown as a company. But for them to sit there and say, well, this guy who obviously has been a major part of Marvel Studios and Disney and all the success that we've had, we recognize how successful and great he is to our company. Oh, but he said these things in the past, so he's not worth to work anymore. Well, like, can't you then just turn that same logic back on that company, or just about anybody, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it like sets a weird precedent, because I think everybody's so afraid because of what happened with Harvey Weinstein and Harry Knowles and Andy Signore and all these people that have come out as being, even Bryan Singer, who have come out as like being abusive and pedophiles, for most of their career. But actually, Harvey Weinstein was, him sexual abusement or whatever. It sets this like precedent where everybody's afraid that their past is going to come back and haunt them. And Disney being Disney, they're afraid. I know what they are. They're afraid that they're going to get that backlash is what's going to happen.
Well, here's a question, since you brought up Harvey Weinstein. How many people knew about that?
Oh, a lot of people knew about it.
And what's happened to all the people that had covered it up and just ruined people's careers about speaking out? The funny thing, nothing happened to them.
You can get on YouTube and look up like Seth MacFarlane predictions or something like that, and he had jokes about Harvey Weinstein, and he had jokes about Kevin Spacey and about how they were like that. So, and then obviously it comes out that they were both, sex offenders or whatever you want to call them. So obviously Seth MacFarlane is probably pretty, deep into the Hollywood community or whatever you want to call it. So for him to know and joke about that years before this happened, that everybody knows that these things are going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a problem because, now everybody's starting to wise up to the problem, but it still brings up the problem is who is really truly guilty and who's not. And it brings up the James Gunn issue where he did something stupid, but because of social media and because of people that, this guy, this alt-liberal guy, or alt-right guy, he's almost accused as almost doing as much bad tweeting and bad stuff that James Gunn was accused for.
Well, he's actually a convicted rapist. And
is he?
Yeah, and his tweets, you could look at his tweets, and they're about rape and things like that, but his aren't jokes.
Right.
So you have James Gunn, who's are obviously bad jokes, and I'm sure like 90% of the people probably don't find them funny. I'm sure there are people out there that get that kind of humor and do find it funny, or maybe they don't find it funny, but they know enough to say, I know what you're getting at. I mean, if anybody watches there's a documentary called The Aristocrat, or not Aristocrat, The Aristocrats. Not the
Aristocrats.
Not the Disney movie.
That was a documentary?
That was a very strange documentary.
Old Disney would probably be close, but the Aristocrats joke. Mm-hmm. Now, it's told by all these different comedians on this documentary. And I don't know if anybody's heard the Aristocrats joke, but it's supposed to be like about the dirtiest and that it has like, I don't even want to go into it because I don't know what rating this podcast is supposed to have, but it's
Yeah, which is say it's pretty graphic. It's like almost worse than what James Gunn said.
yeah. So you have that kind of stuff that's out there. There is this dark humor that's out there, and so if James Gunn had that in the past, and then he, says, you know what, I don't find that kind of stuff funny anymore. I've grown beyond that. I'm sorry that I made that kind of stuff. Why can't people like accept that? So where, I guess the big question is, I think Adam said, like, where's the line where we have Harvey Weinstein and we have who's actually committing pretty much crimes, and we have James Gunn who's making jokes, but the punishment's the same for both.
Right. And yeah, James Gunn, outside of tweeting, actually didn't really do anything. He just,
Yeah.
I mean, the alt-right guy actually started accusing Michael Ian Black and Patton Oswalt for the same exact things because they made comedian comments and comedian jokes online. Like, if you read Patton Oswalt's Twitter account, it's pretty graphic sometimes. It's pretty racy. Michael Ian Black's the same way. Comedians are known for being, especially comedians like that, are known for being like outlandish, and what they say is not necessarily right. But at what point do you draw the line where actual contact is equaling to internet bullshit?
See, I would actually like to see Disney take a stand and say, listen, if you don't like him or if this offended you, don't go see the movie. I guarantee you it's still going to bank and do a lot. I just don't understand this. I mean, you have the co-stars coming out. Batista came out directly in support of him, and a couple other ones came out not directly in support of him, but you can understand if you read between the lines, they're in support of him. And from what you hear from the back channels is, one or more might not show up because they are so pissed off about this. So we might have characters replaced or a script rewrote.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy to think, because James Gunn, his stamp's all over the Guardians franchise, and it's just, I don't know. I mean, it's...
Well,
go ahead.
Are they paying him for the third script? Because he wrote the third script. So what are you going to do? His idea was 1, 2, and 3.
I'm sure there's
so
some
if you're completely firing him, are you going to still pay him for the script? If you're paying him for the script, why not just pay him to direct it?
Well, go ahead. Did you just want to say, Rob?
I think there's probably like a contract that they got to pay him whether they use his script or not. It would be such a shame to have 2 really great Guardians movies, and then the third, which was going to be his last, to finish off his story, just to never be told. So even if they replace him and they don't bring him back, which, by the way, there's like a petition that's got over 150,000 signatures on it right now to bring James Gunn back. I would hope that they would keep his script so that at least maybe he doesn't direct it, but that story can still be told the way he wanted it to.
Well, here I'll actually read the statement that Alan Horn wrote. It says, the offensive attitudes and statements discovered on James' Twitter feed are indefensible and inconsistent with our studio values. We have severed our business relationship with him. And it says, I mean, basically, they're saying, which is right. I mean, if they don't feel comfortable with him being there, then they have every right to fire him. But like I said, I don't know. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I feel like there's some people getting fired for things they shouldn't get fired for, and then you have Samantha Bee, who made fun of a cancer patient, and kept her job. You have Trevor Noah on the Daily Show, who's saying jokes about Aboriginal women, and it's fine. So you have, and just to point out, it's both sides. You have people making fun on, I think that's even worse. Recorded television is even worse, because that's clearly scripted, which means they wrote the joke, they said the joke, they watched it in post, they approved it, and then they aired it. So there's not an accidental or, hey, spur of the moment, I think this is funny type deal. It's where you draw the line. And we really need to stop complaining as a society and look at ourselves. Because I think a lot of people are complaining, but if they turn the mirror on themselves, they would lose their job in a heartbeat over a lot of the stuff they have said in their past.
Well, I was gonna say, can you imagine how much stuff we like, even us and anybody? I mean, think about all the skeletons in people's closets, just Hollywood. Think about all the stuff in Hollywood that has been done or said that will never get out there. I mean, it's just sad to see that this one incident has cost a great director his job. It's not like Bryan Singer, who actually raped a kid.
Yeah.
And yet he somehow gets directing credit still for the Bohemian Rhapsody movie.
Oh, I forgot he was on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was directed until like the last 2 weeks, and then he got fired over it. But
I mean, think about old what's his face.
Yep. Old what's his face.
From that one movie, from what's his name in the
Orson
in the
Welles.
thing. He was
James Gunn.
in the Lost Boys. What's
the thing with
Keith Sutherland.
Corey
Feldman.
Corey Feldman. So you know how Corey Feldman had his allegations that he was molested or whatever, and he finally came out and told who it was, and it was just some kind of like small time guy in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And so you think about how some really small time kind of nobody in Hollywood, and all the way up to Harvey Weinstein, are committing the same types of crimes. So you got to wonder like how many people in between are doing it. And I imagine like a lot of people were doing it over the years, and maybe they've kind of like cooled off from doing it because of all the attention that it's getting. But you got to wonder how many have done, and people just don't want to come out about it because they're embarrassed or whatever. I mean, I guess that's the point of the whole Me Too movement, but
I guarantee you there's still people out there doing it.
But it all goes back to the, there's a huge difference between somebody raping somebody, like Mike Cernovich was charged for, that got James Gunn fired, versus James Gunn, who just made jokes about rape. Which, by the way, how many stand-up comedians make jokes about rape? Like, what's his name on Comedy Central? Tosh.0. He always makes jokes about rape and things like that. And I know he got in trouble for one recently, but as far as I know, doesn't he still have a show?
Yeah, unfortunately he does.
Yeah.
Actually, there was a comedian I was watching on Netflix. I can't remember her name, but she made some of the most offensive jokes I've ever heard in my entire life. And they were funny, but it was just like, if James Gunn gets fired for this, it just, like, as you guys know, it sets a really bad precedence for social media. If social media is able to get this much clout, just think about like what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah. I mean, because all the people who are, our age and younger, who kind of grew up with the internet around. I mean, I know that when I was in late high school, like right after high school, when there were like web forums and things like that, and I went and I was posting on all these web forums when I'm 18 years old or whatever. I have no idea what's out there. So if somebody, I just got to hope that none of them that I didn't use my name on some of these posts, because who knows what kind of stuff I was saying to just be the edgy kid on the internet,
Exactly. Okay, so we're about 25 minutes left, or 25 minutes left to go. 5 minutes left to go. Did you guys have any closing things you want to talk about with this before we head out?
Social media is ruining the world.
You agree with that, Rob?
Sure. No. Yeah. No, maybe. No, I don't. Yes, I do.
You're like, I need social media. I hate social media. I need social media.
What's that?
I think it's.
Oh, go ahead.
I think it's like the double-edged sword. I think social media is really bringing the world together in one way, and I think it's at the same time. I think it's really driving a wedge between everybody. I mean, I think about just kind of Facebook and the evolution of Facebook when it first started, and you had to have a college email address to get onto Facebook. And in those days, I don't remember ever anybody fighting or bickering on there. I mean, I'm sure there was some things, but there wasn't like these. It wasn't known for like just people arguing over Facebook, and even kind of MySpace to some extent. But like when Facebook said, okay, now we're going to let high school students in, then it kind of started going downhill a little bit, because you started getting like the immature people. But I think when they opened it up to everybody, and you got like older generations on there that didn't understand the internet, and so they didn't understand how to like you know, keep things to themselves, and they just put everything out there. That's when you started getting all the older generation, older people were getting in trouble, like politicians, and they were putting all this stuff on the internet because they didn't know how to really to keep things private. And now what you're seeing is younger generations are growing up with the internet, and they don't have any sense of that it was never there. So to them, Facebook and all that is kind of like their own little private journal. So now you're seeing younger kids getting on there and getting into trouble because they don't think about all the consequences. So
Yeah.
it's like our generation is kind of at this interesting position where we can view it from a point where there was nothing and there was something, and we understood it because we were old. We were young enough to understand it, but we were old enough to also like know, like not fear it, but know the consequences of it. So
Yeah. So yeah, it's an interesting subject. It's something that we don't like love to talk about, but it's happened with James Gunn. So okay, so that'll go ahead and do it for this episode. Rob, if they want to reach out to you, where can they find you?
I'm on Instagram at Cell Reborn, and don't scroll all the way to the end. Just stay with the most recent posts because I don't know what's back toward the farther when I joined Instagram. You can also find Facebook at SFEZ Films, SFEZ Films.
Rob is really directing hardcore R-rated horror films.
Yes.
But how about you, Adam? Where can they find you?
8283 Productions on YouTube and Facebook.
Awesome. And as with everything, like I said in the beginning, you can find us at Emporium Movies on Twitter. The email is nlapola1138@gmail.com. I promise I'll change that eventually. You can find me at Big Shadow 1138. Like I said, we set up a YouTube channel. There's only a couple of videos now, but by the time you listen to this, there should be a Mission Impossible review. So with that, yeah, we'll go ahead and head out, and we thank you so much for listening, guys. We'll talk to you later.
Bye. Who said that?